Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. How's everybody doing? I trust all's doing fine. Numero uno has regained his title, and that is, of course, El Señor Michael Rudnan. How you doing, Michael? Great to see you here in the number one spot again, first person in. We also have in the house E2247. Welcome, E2247. We also have Joe from Los Angeles, California. How you doing, Joe? Thanks for being here. Great having you here. And in the house is Carl Cox from Riverdale, Georgia. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. And let's see who else we've got here. I think all's fine. Okay. Please let us talk about relevant stuff today. Let me tell you, today I just got through writing a piece today. I posted it on my Substack, and that is where we're going to start today. But just let me sort of tell everybody hello. Then we're going to talk about it because this is some important stuff. Lita Beercat out of Austin, Texas. We have two maggots in the house. Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia. How you doing? Jill Gordon, old Nana. You're not old, right? Please don't say you're old. Call yourself lived, an enjoyer of life. We also have Minerva Villanueva. ¿Cómo estás, mi hermana? I don't know if you speak Spanish. I just look at the name. That is like saying, my name is Egberto Willies, who speaks Spanish, but Willies is not a Spanish name. Well, I'm Caribbean descent. De Panama, tú sabes esa vaina. All right. We also have Kathy Mary Michael, Terry Scrivener, Mary KJ. How you doing, beautiful? Great to have you here. We have Kathy Mary Michael from Massachusetts. You know, we are kind of popular in Massachusetts too. You know, where's my Massachusetts lady? Cheryl Elkins not here yet, but I imagine she's on a bridge somewhere taking care of business. All right, E2247 says simulation shows regional environment impact result of Bashir nuclear reactor release event. Huh? Did I miss something? You may have to inform me on that. That may be something that went past me. High heat, humidity, and air brine as Bashir makes the building and containment materials more fragile than almost all other nuclear plants experience. Okay. Are we talking about the new kind of reactors now? Is that what we're talking about? Those small ones? I think that's what you may be talking about. Dave Denny from Indiana, how you doing? Welcome aboard. All right. Today is not videos per se, but I want to talk to you because I think we don't have a good understanding of the war. And in that process of not having a good understanding of the war, we generally come to it's the reason why I think the mainstream media can actually get to us in the way they get to us. In other words, with the misinforming, of course, led by the think tanks and everybody else. Okay? So I wrote a piece. Let me tell you, first of all, today normally I have all these different channels on, watching them at the same time. And what you get is you get news on a loop. You take a look at CNN, you take a look at even Fox News, you take a look at, let's say, MS Now, and what you get is you get a loop of everything that's happening that those producers believe are of merit. And then they have their packages. The packages is what a reporter goes out and do, and they have a fixed thing that they put together in a package, and that package goes into the loop. In the case of MS Now and CNN, they may have a few live people in the field that for things that they consider the producers consider of interest. Okay, but but uh, other stations are doing much better. I started off today with Morning Joe. Then I started watching MS Now. I'm talking with the one that I had the volume on, not just captions. Then I started watching MS Now broadcasts around 9, 10 o'clock, etc. And then after the loop started to repeat itself, I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and listen to Al Jazeera. So I went ahead now, put down MS Now, threw on Al Jazeera. Welcome aboard, LBW. Hadn't seen you, Professora. How you doing? Thank you for being here. Um, l- Look, so I turned on Al Jazeera, and there was the the stories that I saw. There's this one story. It went to, when we think about the oil crisis, all we talk about is where is Europe buying oil from? Who's now going to be buying oil from Russia? That sort of a stuff. But we know nothing about what Donald Trump's illegal, evil world disrupting war is actually doing. So we don't get a feel. We just go ahead and feel it's okay, keep bombing, keep doing this, keep doing whatever without looking at the consequences. Well, let me tell you some consequences that I was happy to see reported on Al Jazeera. They went to Zimbabwe and they talked about they sell their gasoline in liters. They talk about in the gasoline going up to $1, $2 a liter in Zimbabwe, and how it's going to affect the local burgeoning equipment economy out there. Okay, so it is amazing that you go into the guts of Zimbabwe to learn this. Then they took you to they took you to what was the other country that did Kenya, and they started to talk about the person that they are no longer all these workers at this tea factory were sent home because of the blockage in the Strait of Hormuz. The blockage in the Strait of Hormuz, they can't export. He had 200 something containers on the dock waiting to be shipped, but he can't ship while the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and that won't open up until there's some resolution to the war. And then they take you to some part of Central America and how it's affecting it there. Then they take you to Brazil. They take you everywhere, right? And you're watching this and you're like, wow, this is the world. What we are doing, all we think about when we're doing things is how it affects us, right? How does this illegal war that was a war of choice affect us? And we just can't believe that evilly our president, without knowing diddly about the world and how what the impact would be on the world, that he goes ahead and invades. And then to cover their butts, they want to tell you how bad Iran is, how dangerous Iran is to all of us, and we had to do this now because. And the piece that I wrote today, and it's a first story on my Substack right now, and I'm going to pull it out in a minute. Try to give some context to how evil both the United States government through its different departments and the way it handled these conflicts as well as Israel. It is so dangerous. Um, but it's not only dangerous, but it actually has an effect on us all. but it's evil. Welcome aboard, Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for being here. Patrick Magner, you finally made it in from Houston, Texas. Patrick says drones hovering above Rubio and Hexet homes have military officials baffled. Unidentified drones prompt security concerns at Washington base where both politicians live. I saw that. Also, he says attacking any infrastructure should not be downplayed. The oil infrastructure has me very concerned, and I will be calling in about it. I would like to hear E2247 call in because you have a lot too. The bombing of the globally big boy nuclear reactor is beyond serious. Uh, okay. Offer and appreciate your humanity. Okay, I agree. Gulf Corporations Council GCC fears Bashir radiation plume as Bashir is close to Persian Gulf capitals, Kuwait, Mana. I hadn't I hadn't um, taken up on that particular storyline, so I'd like somebody to tell us some more. Tell us some more, and I see you have a simulation there. I guess that flew under the radar for me. Let's see what we're talking about. Satellite imagery from Airbus confirms a strike by Israel just 350 meters from Bushehr nuclear reactor. The following simulations show the devastating regional impact. Okay, and we're okay. Okay, I guess that one went over my head. And you're saying Israel is the one who bombed it, huh? Again, they don't really give a damn, right? They don't give a damn. They went ahead and hit infrastructure. But anyway, I tell you what, let's do this. Before I go to my piece on Iran, why don't you call in, Patrick, with what you wanted to say, and then I will go to the piece on Iran because I think I want to make sure that my phones are working. I had some issues with it this morning. I'm having all kind of issues. I'm going to buy some more. I need to go buy another piece. I think we're having a defective thing here. So give me a call now if you're going to call in. But anyhow, folks, let me continue reading the info from our great folks here. Okay, looks like we may have from. Let's see. All right, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can definitely hear you. I could hear you this morning too. You just couldn't hear
Okay.
me.
Yeah. Okay.
The KPFT could hear me too, but you
Yeah.
and Neil could not.
It's my system. There's a problem that I'm having that I don't quite understand yet. It's there's a whole lot of channels that I have to do to kind of do the magical connection with the studio and then back here and to prevent feedback. There's a whole lot of stuff to do with the software. So I got to figure that out. But anyhow, you wanted to add some stuff about the infrastructure being hit.
Yeah, well, ET247 is concerned about the nuclear reactor, and yeah, that is extremely serious. Um, it's been 40 over 40 years since Chernobyl has been uninhabitable,
Right.
and I don't think that in our lifetimes we'll see people being able to live anywhere near that. So we're risking that right now, and he's concerned about that infrastructure, and he should be, or I don't know if it's he or she. I shouldn't assume, but I'm equally, if not more, concerned about the oil infrastructure. We are destroying a finite resource, and so that is a war against ourselves. That's a
Mm-hmm.
war against our children, our
Mm-hmm.
children's children, and our children's children. Not only through we're consuming oil that could be used for work, used for medication and things like that, in a retaliatory method. And nobody understands that. You and I talked a week or two ago about what just 5 to 7% drop in oil production
Mm-hmm.
in a capitalist society that has to increase growth will do. Nobody is even getting close to understanding or addressing that threat. we're looking at probably having personal use of vehicles here banned. We're looking at probably limited diesel for harvesting food. This is around the corner. 30, 60, 90 days at the most.
Well,
And
I don't think
even
people.
if it stops,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
go ahead. I was
Yeah,
going to
as it
say,
turns out
even if
that.
it stops today,
Mhm.
I'm waiting on you.
No, I'm saying go ahead and say even as it stops today. I mean, if it stops today.
Yeah, even if it stops today, there's some lag in things that have already happened that we're not feeling yet, and we have some reserves. And I've been wanting to actually kind of prod you and argue with you where you say that the United States military can't be defeated. It absolutely can if it's not fueled. And we have strategic oil reserves. People think that that's the big ticket. Trump, if he hasn't already, will probably try and ease prices by releasing some of that, which will limit it for
He already did. Yeah.
military. Yeah, I think that there's only 31 days of the like the unit or what they divide that
Mhm.
infrastructure into, or the reserves into, is 31 days of military use. And so if we
Yeah.
use up 25% of it, then we're
Mhm.
down to 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most.
That
And
isn't the
another
answer.
thing that we need.
That isn't. Let me interrupt
Go
you a
ahead.
second. That is the reserve isn't the answer. And here's the thing. If we wanted to be selfish, right? We have to remember the United States, Canada, Mexico, all of us, we are in a self-sufficient region. We are self-sufficient, but we are also a capitalist country. And saying that you're self sufficient doesn't say that you're the one who is going to benefit from that energy. Because in a capitalist society, the petroleum goes on the market and the highest bidder takes it. And the highest bidder doesn't necessarily means country. I mean, companies in the United States. It could actually mean countries in Europe. It could mean countries elsewhere. And so I mean, there's no self sufficiency in a capitalist society where you don't have a law that says you absolutely can't sell that oil overseas. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no. We used to. We used to have
Yes,
natural gas. We used to not be able to export that. And
true.
everybody needs to understand that we're not really producing crude oil anymore. We're producing natural gas.
Right.
And I want to push back on you on that when you say that it's really not as big of a deal as I'm presenting. It absolutely is. Do you know the
Wait,
last
wait, wait.
year that we
Hold on,
discovered?
Patrick. I never said that. No, 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 no. I think it is a
Okay,
big
then
deal.
I misunderstood.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Go ahead.
let me help your listeners understand how bad it is. Do you know the last year that we discovered more oil than the year before
No,
in the
but
United States?
yeah. Here's the thing. We are peak. We were supposed to be at peak oil since the 70s. It seems like we're still not at peak oil, but the one thing they forget to tell you is that still fossil fuel is a finite resource. No matter whether you're at peak oil or not. Go ahead.
Half of OPEC countries produce less every year than they did the year before.
And that's
So
understandable.
the last year that we discovered more oil than the year before was 1965.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then there's about a 20 or 30 year lag on that. So you discover
Yes.
it, you develop it, you exploit it, and then it starts to go down. 1965 is the last year that we actually said, oh, there's more out there. We're going to find more next year. That doesn't happen anymore. And if that really sinks in, we should understand that we are very limited on oil, and the amount of oil we use to run this military machine is just unfathomable. And even if you do extract it here, you have to spend energy to refine it. Then you have to spend energy to move it, and it's a long chain. We're trying to fight a war overseas, and it takes a tremendous amount of energy just to get military over there.
It
But
is
I
it
mean,
is
I was trying
utterly
to.
ridiculous. It is utterly ridiculous. And the funny thing about it is not understanding that, and at the same time going ahead and getting rid of renewables and doing everything to put a wrench in the cog of renewables just shows you that we have a government that is thoughtless.
And yes, and I agree, and we could have ramped up quite a bit more renewable energy produced here, but we didn't, and now it's too late. We're
Hmm.
in a war over it.
Well,
It's 5 to 20 years to produce that infrastructure, and we've done everything we can to stifle it.
but you know what is so sad? Israel, who cares about nobody but Netanyahu, went ahead and took out a part of Iranian infrastructure. Then Iran comes out and takes out a part of Bahrain infrastructure, Dubai's infrastructure, Israel infrastructure. I'm talking about oil refineries that are going to take uh, at best several months, at worst several years to rebuild. And
Yes,
it is just a mess created by Donald Trump, one incompetent SOB that we have allowed. And all of you that have voted for this guy, this is your doing. Let's remember that. All the suffering that is going to occur across the world, we told you this is what this guy represented, and you voted him in anyway. And he is taking not just the United States. Like I said, one of the good things about watching Al Jazeera is you can see the stories, the human stories about what's happening to different people because of this throughout the world. Finish up for me, Patrick, so I can go to the subject that I want to talk about.
countries that don't have strategic oil reserves already and don't have the economy that we have are already rationing oil, already rationing food, and already putting prohibitions on use of uh, oil and natural gas for non-essential work. And I've talked to a couple of petroleum engineers, and they're saying that some of the infrastructure, especially what was hit in Qatar, will take a decade to get back up to its current or what it was producing a month ago.
Yeah, they said they're losing $20 billion a year, 17% of their production gone. Gone.
I think they might want their plane back.
All right, you take care, my brother. We'll speak later, and if I'm done early, you can always call back in if you have some other stuff to add. Thank you for calling, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on, and invite Lita Bearcat to call, and we can talk together.
Yeah, you should, because I mean they elected this piece of you know what, it's not only that they elected him, right? Is that these are such lesser men. I notice I said men. These are such lesser men that they allow such a dunce. They are each of them in the Senate, and most of them in the Congress have a bigger brain than this guy, and they have allowed this guy to take the entire world down the trail just because they're scared of what he may tell his minions, the non-thinkers that follows him, to do. It's a shame, but thank you very much,
Yeah,
Patrick. Uh,
generations that haven't even been born will be suffering because of him. Thank you.
yes, because of what? So all you who voted for Donald Trump, you're getting exactly what you voted for. And Eric, stop being gullible. Oh, Netanyahu did something that he shouldn't have done. No, the person who did something that they shouldn't have done is the United States. Netanyahu is nobody. Netanyahu is nothing without the United States. Put that in your head and put it in the pipe and smoke it. There is no Netanyahu without without the United States. And yes, E2247 is absolutely true when he says, let's stop all this magic thinking, including relying on the Democratic Party as a magic bullet. I never said rely on the Democratic Party. I said rely on voters that will go out there and put the right people into power. Okay, let's remember that. But all the look, I don't like to call names, but those who chose Donald Trump, they're getting exactly what we told them they would. And all of you will be screwed. Well, all of us will be screwed. But we know exactly whom to blame. And that's you all who refuse to think. You all who refuse to think. And some of you are still in my chat with the BS. When will you learn? What does it take to get into your heads, my brothers? And notice I said brothers because it's not too many women that you see so gullible like you guys. Most women you see or think. My God. All right, let's go ahead and get into the subject that I wanted to talk about today because this is important. I want to give some context and I want this to be, share this as well. I want you all to be able to understand what's going on here, the why, etc. Let's see. Egberto, lots of Democratic primaries. The progressives got screwed because more than one ran in the same first pass of the elections and they split the vote between them. And that is where sometimes progressives get on my nerves, Michael. Uh, let's say you and I, Michael, and we'll get to the program in a minute. Let's say you and I decide to run, but I am strongly in favor of basic income and Medicare for all. And let's say you want a different kind of basic income and not Medicare for all, and you look strategically at the race run and you said, you know what, Egberto, I am still gonna run. Understanding that concept, I would back out. Okay? I would back out of running for the better good. But too often, in fact, let me put some blame on progressives as well for having Trump having been elected. And let me tell you how. Let's go to Michigan. Michigan, the Arab community, a big part of the Arab community got real upset at Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is not didn't support the Palestinians as good or as well as she should have supported them, and because of that, we're going for Donald Trump. Really? I mean, think. You know, we have folks that are saying we are going to step out. There's this brother out of Atlanta, black guy out of Atlanta. He told folks to just stay home. Don't be a part of it. And then, the funniest part about this guy who's given this advice is he's a guy loaded with money that he gets from the same people that he misinforms. And he tells them, don't go vote. Let the Democratic Party pay for not for using black people as suckers. Does the Democratic Party use black people as suckers? Yes, they do. But it's the best you got till you change it. I mean, the lack of critical thinking and the lack of empathy to those who simply got screwed. Look, because Kamala Harris would Kamala Harris have been a progressive bastion? Hell no. But with Kamala Harris, you would still have your Medicare. That you would still have the ability to go ahead and and have health care. With Kamala Harris, the kids that are starving from lack of SNAP right now would have had still the ability to have SNAP. With Kamala Harris, you would have still have the ability to, you know what, have higher taxes on some of these folks. And hey, Eric Lilov, how you doing, doctor? Nice to see you here, my brother. I haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for stopping in. So, as it turns out, all of those progressives who looked at Kamala and says she's not a progressive or she's not progressive enough. No, she's not progressive enough. But between her and Trump, you bet your life she was a better person to vote for because we wouldn't be going down the throat of Iran. We wouldn't have put the world in danger. We wouldn't have had this. We wouldn't have polluted the industries, we wouldn't have got rid of a lot of programs that are building on renewable energy. And look at what not supporting in renewable energies for the decades of Republican administration has done for us. Come on, people. We have to start thinking smarter. So thank you for bringing that up, Senor Rudnin, because I blame MAGA for electing a buffoon. Yes, it is your fault. It is mostly your fault. When you see all the bad things that are going to happen to your own kids, it is your fault. When you see all the bad things that are going to happen around the world, it is your fault. But it is also the fault of progressives who, because they just couldn't get their 100%, went ahead and stayed home. It is your fault as well. Michael Runner says 6 million progressives didn't vote for Kamala Harris of Gaza. 5 million progressives didn't vote for Kamala Harris because of lies about how well the economy was doing, while we see our fellow Americans living paycheck to paycheck, unable to afford rent and groceries, while the rich bribe the politicians. These were the top two reasons why Kamala Harris lost. Yes, but was the answer to vote for Donald Trump? That's the question, right? And I think, as Brother Lulov would tell you, fuel prices hurt the MAGA base, truck drivers, farmers, rural, etc. So you burnt yourself. He also says, and who is the majority of soldiers that are going to fight in Iran? MAGA families. You see? Anyhow, let's get busy because I really want to touch on this subject here. So let me go ahead and pull this out here. Bear with me 1 second. Let me get to the story that I want to cover now. Para ver, ¿dónde está? Aquí está. Okay. I'm going to send it out as an email because I'm going to cut a piece of this video, put it in, and then send this one out as my next newsletter for today, I believe. Here we go. And the title is Iran Can't Hit US Directly, so it is hitting everyone around it. Iran strikes Gulf nations, oil hubs, and US bases across the region. The result? Rising oil prices, global instability, and a war spreading through allies, not to speak about pollution and much more. This piece lays bare the dangerous trajectory of the US Israel policy towards Iran, one rooted in historical intervention and now accelerating through targeted assassinations of top Iranian leaders. It examines how these actions invite asymmetric retaliation, destabilize global markets, and risk a catastrophic war with no imminent justification. The analysis challenges the dominant narrative, by exposing the economic and human consequences of escalation, from energy shocks and food insecurity to the potential erosion of U.S. financial dominance. It argues that this war is not inevitable but chosen, and that it is fallout will extend far beyond the battlefield. And here we go with the article that I just wrote. Whoops, I didn't put it on the screen. Let me put it on the screen. But please remember to share this article. Well, it looks like I can't share the article. I think I found one of the issues with our loopback. Anyway, but I'll go ahead and continue with it. Here we go. History does not merely linger in the background of US Iran tensions, it defines the present. Any honest analysis must begin with an unambiguous acknowledgement. The modern Iranian state did not emerge in a vacuum. And I've gone through this many a times. It arose from a violent interruption of democratic self determination engineered by whom? The Western powers. In 1953, the United States, through the CIA, working in tandem with the United Kingdom's MI6, orchestrated the overthrow of Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, and he was democratically elected. Let's remember that, democratically elected. Now, that act crushed a democratic trajectory and replace it with the Shah repressive regime, laying the groundwork for 1979 revolution and the rise of the current theocratic state. Look, that historical crime matters today because it exposes the continuity of interventionist thinking. The same mindset that toppled Mossadegh now manifests in a far more dangerous form: the normalization of assassination as a policy. In the recent weeks, that policy has escalated dramatically. Israel, often with US backing or coordination, has carried out a sweeping campaign of targeted killings that has effectively decapitated large segments of Iran's political and military leadership. Among those assassinated, Ayatollah Ali Khomeini, their supreme leader, Ali Larijani, their head of the Supreme National Security, and many more. You can read the rest in the article. These are not fringe actors. These are the core of a sovereign state's leadership. Not only that, if you're knocking off all these people, who do you negotiate with? First of all, there should be no negotiations because you shouldn't have invaded in the first place. But if you're assassinating these people, who do you negotiate with? Reports indicate that dozens of additional senior IRGC commanders, intelligence officials, and nuclear program figures have also been killed. And the escalation has not stopped. Recent reporting confirms that multiple top Iranian figures, including Khatib, Larijani, and Soleimani, were killed within 24-hour periods, underscoring the intensity of the campaign. Experts warn that such a strategy, while tactically disruptive, often produces the opposite of its intended effect. You think about, do you really want them to come and take out our Republican Senate? I don't think so. Even that will bring out some sort of a nationalistic fervor. You don't come into our country and knock out our people. You don't do that. But Iran is not without recourse. It lacks the United States global reach, yet it possesses a network of regional assets capable of imposing serious costs. And that's what we're seeing. Lebanon, they use Hezbollah with vast missile arsenal. And you know what that is doing? Those missiles are confusing. And when you go to war, you throw up, you go and you soften the base out by putting out rockets, etc. And after you soften the base out, you can actually go in with the things that you really want to hit. What the American philosophy, what we have done wrong is, think about it. Hezbollah has missiles right up close in Lebanon and all these other places. You fire these suckers off, and they have tens of thousands of them. And you use up all the material that they have, all the rockets that they have in Israel, and then the big guns come in. Have you heard? It seems like one of our planes went down in Iran today because they thought they had complete and entire air supremacy. You remember the rope a dope, where you just let them beat the hell out of you? You let them beat the hell out of you, and you weaken them because they're throwing everything at you, and you are just taking it. And then when they think that, and in this case it's us guys, we have such an inept governing system. After you let them hit you and bang you for a while, when they think you have nothing left, then you execute. You see the reason Israel went and blew up that refinery, or blew up that gas field in Iran, is it thought they did not have the capability to come back and do the same in Bahrain and all these other places that would cause more damage? They thought we at least could just destroy them economically. Now that we have air supremacy, now that we have naval supremacy, we can destroy them now. We can destroy them economically now. And they hit back and say, mutual assured destruction. Mad. Mutual assured destruction. People they forget that Iran is a part of the Ottoman Empire. These are not These are civilizations that are much older than ours. These are not dummies. These are not dummies. But we treat them like that. And when we start to believe the fallacies, it only hurts and harm one person or one group or one country. You know, it hurts us all. It hurts us all. So yes, they have Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hezbollah in Iraq, Yemen has the Houthis, in Syria they have all these militias, in the Persian Gulf there. I mean, there are so many ways that it is a fact that this is not something we should have ever entered in because it's something we cannot win. It is something we cannot win. I want to break right here to say this. Here's what Lita Beercat says. Egberto, you sound like you are cheering against America. No, Mr. Beercat, in your vote for Donald Trump, you were a traitor to America. And by the way, to my progressives and all of those who are going to try to use that argument that you hear Mr. Beercat using right now, get your knives sharpened, because the traitors are those who elected Donald Trump. The traitors are those who put our country in danger by electing an imbecile. It's not like we didn't know this was going to happen. So, though it's not about cheering against America, it's about saying you guys elected an imbecile we told you would have destroyed America, and you voted for it. You are responsible for this. Now, what you need to do is help us get out of it. Atone for your treason. That is what you should do. Atone for your treason. And folks, this is something we better tell them all. Don't let them flip the switch on us. They are destroying this country. MAGA is responsible for this country's utter destruction. They are traitors to this country. Let's continue. These are not theoretical tools, what Iran has. We knew that they had it. We've spoken about it. Donald Trump was told not to do it. They have already been used. Iranian retaliation has included missile strikes, attacks on regional infrastructure, and threats to energy facilities across Gulf states, with real consequences for global oil markets. When an Iran cannot strike the United States directly, it strikes the oil that sustains it, the logistical, economic, and geopolitical web that underpins Western power. You see, they know pain. We don't. And our pain can easily be haggled by simply blowing up a few refineries. We are an oil economy. And going into going and trying to work with or attack someone who also has the power to inflict pain, who think that it's existential that they put harm on you because you're attempting to put harm on them. Again, MAGA, you are traitors. It is you who elected this guy. The normalization of assassination also destroys any remaining pretense of international norms. When the United States and Israel claims the right to eliminate leaders they oppose, they establish a precedent that others can follow. Blowback is not hypothetical, it is inevitable. Near the heart of this crisis lies a profound and damning contradiction. The justification of this war rests on the claim of imminent threat. Yet, even insiders have undermined the narrative. We should recall Joseph Kent made it very clear that an Iranian attack on the West or use of nuclear weapons was not imminent. That admission alone dismantles the moral and strategic case for escalation. And what remains then is a war of choice. And it is a catastrophic one, folks. It is catastrophic. The unnecessary war will cost thousands of innocent Iranian lives, innocent Israelis, and innocent Americans. But the devastation will not stop there. The devastation will not stop there. The economic shockwaves alone could kill hundreds of thousands more globally. Fertilizer shortages tied directly to energy disruptions will threaten agricultural production. Fuel shortages will cascade through transportation, manufacturing, and daily life. Food prices will spike, hitting the world's poorest populations first and hardest. At the systemic level, prolonged conflict will accelerate the erosion of U.S. economic dominance as instability spreads and confidence weakens. The dollar's position as the world's reserve currency will face increased pressure. And that is about to start already. Nations will seek alternatives. There's BRICS, and there are other mechanisms being used in Singapore and other places. The very foundation of American financial power could begin to fracture under the weight of perpetual war. This is not a strength, it is strategic self harm masquerading as dominance. And all you MAGA folks fell for it. The question is, when do you atone? When do you recover from the treason you've effected on this country? A rational approach would recognize the limits of force. It would acknowledge history not as an academic exercise, but as a guide to avoid repetition. It would reject assassination as a policy and diplomacy as a sign of weakness. And it would understand that in a deeply interconnected world, war is never contained, war is never intelligent, war is never efficient, and war will never, ever, ever attain what you think you could with it. The lesson remains as clear as it is ignored. Empires that refuse to learn from their interventions do not control the future, they destabilize it. I have a few typos in there. I was writing this stuff real fast and correcting it and passing it through, and a few typos I'll go ahead and fix before I send it out as a newsletter with a piece of this video. But the idea here is this, folks. We knew this would happen. Either this or some permutation thereof. And now that it's happening, I think it is imperative that here's the thing. They're going to try to change the narrative. And as we go up against this war, they're going to try to make you look un-American. The most American thing to do right now is to force these guys to just give up and stop this war. And at the same time, name those who voted for Donald Trump. And it's a time to say, this is what we expected. Your act, whether voluntary, gullibly, or not, was a treasonous act because, in effect, you've defied and deceived your country. And then give them the opportunity to atone. So, for the MAGAs in my chat right now, Mike Cisak, a traitor, but you can atone. Eric, a traitor, but you can atone. Lee the Bearcat, a traitor, but you can atone. But right now, you have committed treason on this country. And I don't say that but from the depths of my heart. I mean that. I want to let you know for a fact that all of us that are consider ourselves Americans who did not vote for Donald Trump should come to the realization that in fact those voted for Donald Trump are traitors. Not not fatal traitors. They have the ability to atone. They have the ability to join into the recovery of this country. But as long as they continue attempting to find excuses for this imbecile. As long as they continue to try to find excuses, they must be held accountable. They must be ostracized. They must be left out. So therefore, if I'm somebody hiring people, that's a bellwether. They will never work for me. That tells me that they are not clairvoyant. They have an inability to think. You cannot be hired. That is one of my criteria, and it is a legal criteria because a vote for Donald Trump shows an inability to think rationally. Okay, it has the inability to think rationally, and I think all of you out there, those of you who have companies, must make it a litmus test. If you are a Trump voter that has refused to atone, it means you are mentally ill equipped to work for me. And that goes with me as well. Anybody that I'm going to contract anything out to, anything, that will be a litmus test. Because the only way to get rid of a cancer is to starve the cancer. And right now, MAGA is a cancer to our society. And I mean that again from the depths of my heart. I don't hate my MAGA brothers and sisters. I really, really don't. But if you are refusing to accept the treasonous act that you have committed, until that is done and you act accordingly, as far as I'm concerned, I will simply treat you for the mentally ill person that you are and try to help you in the long run. But as far as moving forward as a country, it is now essential that we stick with that which will move us forward. We don't have the time for more Irans. We don't have the time for that at all. The cancer must be extricated. The cancer must be starved. All right, folks, that's the end of the program for today. I have about 4 minutes to go. Anybody wants to give me a call, the number is 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. Um, right now, like I said, these people have done such a poor, these people have really damaged our country. And now that it's being realized, we have to call it out. We must not be on the defense, folks. We must be on the offense. Marnie says, I have a friend who lost her husband in 2005 in a down helicopter in Afghanistan, and her year-old son and 6-year-old daughter had grown up without their dad, thanks to Bush-Cheney war of mass deception. That is sad. Marnie says, maybe we love our troops enough that we don't want them dying for some billionaire wet dream. I agree with that. Uh, yeah, nobody else is calling, Patrick. So if you need to say something, feel free to do so. Eric Lulov says only reason the USD is used is the deal that Saudis made back in the 17s, the petrodollar. You're right about that, the petrodollar. And once there's no petrodollar, and that's one of the reasons that we went so hard at Venezuela, because Venezuela was trading. Here we go, Brackens. How you doing, Brackens? Talk to me.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head with the MAGA supporters.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I need to bring another call in. Stay with me. All right. I think I can connect them. All right. Continue, Brackens.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like the first time Trump voters, you kind of gave them a pass because they didn't know any better. The second time Trump voters, you basically said, okay, well, they're okay with chaos and anarchy. So, yeah, they still have not learned. And the third time Trump voters, after January 6th, those people clearly don't have any values when it comes to American democracy or anything like, I guess, diversity. I mean, basically, if you voted for Trump in the third term, you're basically saying, I don't like America the way it is, and I want everything to change, And I want it to happen where people like, well, not like us, but people like them have all of the benefits and all the access to the pleasures of life, and we basically are just on the back end trying to figure out what we can scrape by with, and that's terrible. I really just I'm glad you
Yeah,
put your foot down and say, you know what, I'm not going to do business with them. That's fair enough, and it's not personal, it's business.
oh yeah, it's not personal, and like I said, they will still be my friends. They will still be whatever, but I understand that they are friends at a distance. You voted for Trump. You voted against people who looked like me. You voted for Trump. You voted to kill a lot of your fellow Americans by in a war of choice. You vote for Trump. Those are all the things that you did. Let me ask you to hold a second. I think Patrick wanted to add one other thing, but don't leave, Ray. Come on in, Patrick, real quick.
I mean,
Two other things. I want to tell you that I appreciate your passion today. A lot of times you're measured. I kind of feel like I'm seeing the real Willies right now. But I wanted to point out to everybody that whenever a Democrat's in office, we're always worried about the budget. But 28% armchair math, 28% of the current deficit
Budget.
or
Yeah.
debt is Trump's,
Yes.
and that means that he added 40% to our debt. And Reagan did the same thing, and Reagan got into office under the same arguments that we're going to fix the budget and everything. But that's not really why I wanted to call. I want to finish up my last rant because I also want to point out that this is a war on our own soldiers. The last Republican president that went into the Middle East bombed a civilian area with depleted uranium, which gives people cancer. It vaporizes. It's the depleted uranium, uranium 233, I think. I might be wrong on that, but that gives people cancer, birth defects, and everything. He bombed a civilian area, and then he marched without sleep a gigantic number of soldiers into that polluted area, and he accomplished nothing with either of those two
Actions.
scenarios or theaters. And then now we're going to do this again, and the current president doesn't even try and project the compassion for soldiers that Bush did. He says very plainly he doesn't care, and he's obviously somebody that is incapable of really passion for anybody else. And
He
he's
has
going to
none. But
get all
Patrick, I
these
gotta
people
go.
killed.
Let me let
Excellent.
Bracken say a closing remark, and then we got to get out of here. Ray,
Yes, sir.
Ray, come on
yeah,
in.
so simple as this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, simple as this. Close it out. Everybody who voted for Trump, if you want to atone, either don't vote Republican November or vote Democrat, and that's how you can atone. Everybody have a good day.
Thank you so kindly. Thank you, guys. And you know what Ray said is the answer. Atonement. You can simply not vote, right? If you just can't stomach voting for a Democrat or an independent, but I'll tell you what, I vote for any Republican right now because Republicans have found themselves useless next to Trump. They would say something behind the scenes. Yeah, I don't want to do that, but I can't go up against them. I am so sorry that they're so weak. Again, you know, Patrick, I need to get out of here. Patrick said, "Oh, I've never heard you like that." I think it's just that I attempt my best to be civil. But when it comes to you killing my fellow Americans, it's civility act. You remain civil, but you don't hold back from telling the other side what you try to coax into them before. You guys, voters for Donald Trump, all of this is on your this these soldiers' blood is on your hands. The downturn in the economy is on your hands. The price of the gasoline is on your hands. The killing of the soldiers that are coming over here is on your hands. The killing of innocent Iranians, Israelis, and others are on your hands. You are traitors. And the only way to get around that, to atone, is to do the right thing. And look, you can be forgiven for being ill informed. You can be forgiven for simply being stupid. But you can't be forgiven for knowing that you were stupid about something, knowing that you were gullible about something, and just to save face, you refuse to atone. At that point, you become evil. Folks, you can continue the rest of the show at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Love you all, and I mean all of you. Love you. We are going to change this country. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.